Hey there, history fans! Welcome to another thrilling journey through time. Today we're diving headfirst into one of history's most dramatic chapters, the French Revolution. This period was a turning point that reshaped not just France, but the entire world. Imagine France in the late 1700s. Picture bustling city streets, horse-drawn carriages, and a society on the brink of monumental change. It's a world of powdered wigs, fancy palaces, and massive problems brewing beneath the surface. The aristocracy lived in opulence while the common people struggled to make ends meet. France was a powerful nation, but things weren't as glamorous for everyone. The stark contrast between the wealthy and the poor was glaring, and tensions were rising. The French Revolution didn't just erupt overnight. It was the result of years of social, economic, and political issues that had been festering for a long time. It was a slow burn, fueled by years of simmering resentment and a chain reaction of events. The people were fed up with the inequality and the heavy taxation imposed on them. Buckle up, because we're about to break down the wild ride that was the start of the French Revolution. From the storming of the Bastille to the rise of revolutionary leaders, it's a tale of courage, struggle, and change. Let's rewind to the 1780s. This was a decade of significant unrest and growing dissatisfaction among the French populace. King Louis XVI and his queen, Marie Antoinette, ruled from the opulent Palace of Versailles. They were symbols of the monarchy's excesses and detachment from the common people's struggles. They were living large, but the rest of France, not so much. The common people faced high taxes, food shortages, and a lack of political representation. Let's just say, things were about to get messy. The stage was set for a revolution that would change the course of history forever. The French Revolution was not just a series of events, but a profound transformation that questioned the very foundations of society and governance. The Estates General meeting in 1789 was a critical moment. The Third Estate, representing the common people, voiced their grievances and demanded change. This was the spark that ignited the revolutionary flame. The storming of the Bastille on July 14, 1789 became a symbol of the revolution. It was a powerful act of defiance against the tyranny of the monarchy and a call for liberty, equality, and fraternity. Revolutionary leaders like Robespierre, Danton, and Marat emerged, rallying the people and pushing for radical changes. Their speeches and writings inspired a nation to rise up and fight for their rights. But the revolution was not without its dark moments. The Reign of Terror saw thousands executed by the guillotine as the revolutionaries sought to purge enemies of the revolution and consolidate their power. Amidst the chaos, the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen was adopted, laying the groundwork for modern human rights and democratic principles. The revolution eventually paved the way for the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte, who would go on to become one of history's most famous military leaders and emperors. The French Revolution left an indelible mark on France and the world, ushering in a new era of political and social change. It was a time of great upheaval, but also of immense progress and the birth of new ideals. And so, the legacy of the French Revolution lives on, reminding us of the power of the people to shape their destiny and the enduring quest for liberty, equality, and fraternity. Picture this. France was drowning in debt. Years of lavish spending by the monarchy and costly wars, like the American Revolution, more on that later, had emptied the royal coffers. To make matters worse, a series of bad harvests had led to skyrocketing food prices. Bread, the staple food of the common people, became a luxury many couldn't afford. Imagine struggling to feed your family while the rich feasted. Resentment towards the wealthy elite began to boil over. Now let's talk about social structure. In the late 18th century, France was a nation deeply divided by rigid social hierarchies. These divisions were not just social but also economic and political, creating a lopsided society that was ripe for upheaval. France was divided into three estates. These estates were more than just social classes. They were legally defined categories that determined one's rights, duties, and privileges. The first estate was the clergy, living in the lap of luxury thanks to church taxes. They owned about 10% of the land and were exempt from many taxes, enjoying a life of comfort and influence. The second estate was the nobility, enjoying privileges and exemptions from taxes. They held significant power and wealth, owning around 25% of the land. Their lives were marked by opulence and a sense of entitlement. And then there was the third estate, everyone else. This group was incredibly diverse, encompassing a wide range of social and economic backgrounds. This massive group included peasants, artisans, merchants, and even wealthy bourgeois. Despite their numbers and contributions to society, they had the least power and were burdened with the most taxes. They bore the brunt of the taxes and had little say in how the country was run. The Third Estate was responsible for paying the majority of the taxes, which funded the lavish lifestyles of the First and Second Estates. Imagine being taxed to death while the privileged few lived carefree lives. Yeah, not cool. This stark disparity created immense frustration and resentment among the common people, setting the stage for revolutionary change. The unfairness of this system was one of the key factors that led to the French Revolution. The Third Estate, tired of being exploited and ignored, began to demand equality, liberty, and fraternity. Their struggle eventually led to the drafting of the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, a document that proclaimed the equality of all men and the sovereignty of the people. Events like the storming of the Bastille became symbols of the people's fight against oppression and their quest for a more just society. However, the path to equality was fraught with challenges, including the Reign of Terror, where revolutionary fervor led to widespread violence and executions. Eventually, the revolution paved the way for the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte, who would bring both reform and authoritarian rule to France. The legacy of the French Revolution is complex, but it undeniably reshaped French society and inspired future movements for social justice and equality around the world. Politically speaking, France was an absolute monarchy. King Louis XVI had all the power. He could make laws, levy taxes, and even imprison people without trial. There was no parliament or elected body to represent the people's interests. While Louis wasn't exactly a tyrant, he was seen as out of touch and indecisive. His lavish lifestyle and that of his court didn't exactly endear him to the struggling masses. Believe it or not, the American Revolution played a role in sparking the French one. France had supported the American colonists in their fight for independence from Britain. While this was a victory for freedom and liberty, it came at a hefty price for France, further draining their already depleted treasury. The irony? The French people helped fund a revolution for liberty across the ocean while they were denied basic rights at home. New ideas were sweeping through Europe, the Enlightenment. Thinkers like John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau championed individual rights, popular sovereignty, and limitations on government power. These radical notions planted seeds of discontent among the French people, especially the educated bourgeoisie. They began to question the absolute authority of the king and the unfair social order. Remember those sky-high food prices? Well, in 1789, a series of riots known as the Flour War erupted across France. Desperate people, driven to their wits' end by hunger, looted bakeries and grain stores. The Flour War was a clear sign that the people's patience was wearing thin. They were hungry, angry, and demanding action. Section 8. Calling for Change, the Estates General. Faced with mounting pressure and a looming financial crisis, Louis XVI was forced to act. He agreed to convene the Estates General, an assembly representing all three estates, for the first time in over 175 years. The Estates General met in May 1789, bringing with them a wave of hope for reform. The Third Estate, representing 98% of the population, saw this as their chance to voice their grievances and demand change. Section 9. A storm is brewing, the National Assembly. The Estates General, however, quickly hit a roadblock. Traditionally, each estate got one vote, meaning the First and Second Estates could always outvote the Third. The Third Estate, inspired by Enlightenment ideals, demanded a fairer system where votes were counted by head, not by estate. When this was rejected, they took a bold step. On June 17, 1789, they declared themselves the National Assembly, the true representatives of the French people. Section 10. Bastille Day, lighting the fuse. This day marks a pivotal moment in history, a day that would ignite the flames of revolution and change the course of a nation forever. The king's response to the National Assembly? It was a move that would only add fuel to the fire. King Louis XVI, in a desperate attempt to maintain control, decided to lock the members of the National Assembly out of their meeting hall. This act of defiance was seen as a blatant attempt to stifle the voices of the people and maintain the status quo. Well, he locked them out of their meeting hall. This action was not just a physical barrier, but a symbolic gesture that the monarchy was unwilling to listen to the demands for change. The locked doors became a powerful image of the oppression and resistance that was brewing within the hearts of the French people. Fear and anger gripped Paris. The streets were filled with a palpable tension as the citizens of Paris began to realize the gravity of their situation. The king's actions had pushed them to the brink, and the city was a powder keg ready to explode. Rumors spread that the king was planning to use military force against the National Assembly. These whispers of impending violence only served to heighten the sense of urgency and desperation among the people. They feared that their hopes for a better future were about to be crushed under the heel of the king's army. On July 14, 1789, a mob of Parisians stormed the Bastille, a royal prison, searching for weapons and gunpowder. This was not just an attack on a building, it was an assault on the very symbol of the king's absolute power. The Bastille, with its towering walls and grim reputation, represented the tyranny that the people were determined to overthrow. The storming of the Bastille, now celebrated as Bastille Day, became a powerful symbol of the French Revolution, a symbol of the people's triumph over tyranny. This event marked the beginning of a new era, one where the voices of the oppressed would no longer be silenced. It was a day that would be remembered for generations, a day when the people of France took their destiny into their own hands and lit the fuse of revolution. Section 11. A revolution begins. The storming of the Bastille marked a turning point. The French Revolution was no longer just about bread prices or unfair taxes, it was about fundamental change. The people had tasted power, and they were hungry for more. They demanded liberty, equality, and fraternity. The French Revolution was just getting started, and its impact would be felt for centuries to come.